This week's episode is brought to you by Steve Lucier, Lauren Feltz, and AIX. Thank you, Stephen Lucier, Lauren Feltz, and AIX. It's with the generous support of our listeners like you that we stay stocked up on a fresh supply of candied bacon Twinkie rockets, which are rushed into production following the catastrophic leak of our Kool-Aid infused pineapple spears recipe, which, although is delicious when consumed by humans, also creates the ideal biological conditions in the body to host a rare ghost parasite that feeds on the concoction and slowly networks between all the host bodies and begins to produce a low-frequency oscillation capable of alerting the Bidiga to our location on the galactic disk, a fate too unthinkable to even consider. If you'd like to help us prepare for the invasion of the Bidiga, or just hear the second half of this episode, then please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your monthly donation of just $5 will not only earn you access to the second half of this episode, you'll get the instant access to our entire vault of extended episodes that are, after you do some login magic, are browsable from right within your native Spotify app. There's so much goddamn members-only content, you'll need a lot of thumb energy to scroll through it. And being on Spotify makes it that much easier. Not only that, if you sign up right now, I'll send you a 5x5 vinyl sticker of our Big Bunny Baphomet cover art and the secret keys to our Sacred Grove Discord server, where we argue about which type of muffin is best. In this week's show, we finally take a glimpse at what psychonaut Danny Goller has been trying to tell us for the last few years. If you smoke enough DMT and stare at a diffused laser, you could see the code of reality. After talking about how Danny figured it out, we discuss why such a strange idea might not only make sense, but falls in line with cutting-edge research and a long tradition in the West of combining optics with spirit communication to advance our understanding of reality. It happens more than you think. We even get into how Danny says to do the experiment, which we do not endorse, condone, or promote in any way, because drugs are bad and I'm not responsible for any damage you'll do to your eyes while you're on them. In fact, don't do anything ever. Just sit and breathe and think and drink water sometimes. Also, I can't tell you how to live your life. In the second half of the show, we go into the life of some of those wizards we mentioned in the first half, the bizarrely specific experiences shared by the participants of this experiment, and what kind of strange entities are most contacted while a user is on DMT. Along the way, we jump into things like the back rooms, the city of pyramids, and the occult reason why the entities that reside there might be hideous clown creatures. Thank you, and enjoy the show. Did you hear about the guy who smoked DMT at the airport? His bags went to a totally different dimension. What do you call a low-energy laser?
What?
Lazy.
I like that.
Actually got banned from laser tag last week.
Oh?
Yeah, apparently
Why?
they frown on using a knife to save ammo. What the hell is laser hair? Why does everybody want it removed?
I wouldn't mind having laser hair. That would be cool.
Yeah.
I feel like it would mess up your genes.
Probably be hard to make friends.
I don't know, all the milk you drink would turn into cheese if it were a mustache.
You definitely wouldn't be allowed to go in a house of mirrors or like a haunted house.
Oh, good lord.
Kicked out of lectures all the time.
It'd be
But you
a
could
problem.
you'd be invited to like every rave though.
Yeah.
Ravebeard, how did Marjorie Taylor Greene find out about the secret Jewish space laser?
Yeah.
Tore a hole in the atmosphere.
Oh, ha.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Whole Rabbit, where we don't just break through the chrysanthemum to play games with the machine elves before giving way to astonishment and wake up somewhere Thursday night at Burning Man begging Alex Gray and I incoherently to sign our tits. Nay, we break out the diffusion laser and follow instructions given to us by an ex-Israeli military ninja warrior parkour expert and psychonaut to hack the code of reality. Literally, because this week we're discussing the DMT laser experiments, which supposedly allow you to see the code of reality, and not in a fake, hallucinatory way. But we'll talk about that. I'm your host, Luke Madrid, also known as Hack Rabbit. I'm joined this week by the woof woof with a click clack, Marty Shotgun Sama.
Howdy, y'all.
The particle beam mounted battle pony of the night, Hecka Astra.
Hello.
And the financier of flatulence, Sir Tim of Hacker.
Hello.
Tee.
Oh, hi, Ludwig.
Oh, hi, Hans.
For the record, I don't actually blame the space lasers on Jewish people. I actually blame them on the Vatican. So, that's the space mit the ball.
Fair enough.
I tried ignoring this topic for the longest time, but I finally caved, and I'm happy I did.
It's my fault.
It's true. She got me to look at this seriously, and it's because she was able to show me that Chase Hughes had tried this experiment and spoken positively of it, which was enough for me to feel confident telling the audience about it, basically. I think that guy's pretty cool. I'd like to talk about the content he specializes in, but that's like another episode. But he's all about psyops, isn't he?
Yeah, and we did bring him up before when we did an episode on body language, because he's really good with body language, being a psyop and intelligence retiree.
If there was one guy who could think objectively before, during, and after the experiment, I would suspect it was him. So just based on that, I was willing to look into this. It turns out it's pretty interesting.
Is it real?
Yeah, I think what gets people that if this experiment happens to have any reality to it, it somehow means that our reality is less real. And it has, according to the people who've tried it, ontologically shaken them to the point where the people who've looked long and hard enough, they feel it could shake our foundations. That perhaps we're touching upon something science could one day grasp as well because of the nature of the experiment, its repeatability.
There's no decided narrative, though, from the people who do the experiment as to, like, this is the proof that reality is fake or is real.
Dude, DMT hyperspace is totally a higher level of reality.
Well, that's something many, not just ecstatic drug experiences, but ecstatic religious or spiritual experiences show, is that the people who undergo those will sometimes say that what they experienced on the other side, quote unquote, was more real than real, the real life we live. And
that's why they don't let you take it back. Like, you ever notice, like, when you do psychedelics, you can't remember all of the profound, like, paradigm changing shit that happened and, like, the conclusions and lessons you came to? You can never bring it back with you because it's not meant to, like, for this realm.
Well, what's interesting about this experiment, it almost promises to bypass that feature and glimpse behind the curtain.
So if you come away from it being like, that was realer than real, most times you're left with the feeling of knowing, but it's a feeling of knowing and not like a conscious knowing if you're bringing something back across the abyss. Whereas this experiment's a bit different because it's also a conscious knowing. It's not just a feeling of knowing. Like a mental knowing.
Like a subconscious mental knowing almost, right? Like it's there, but you can't really pin it down at the same time.
No. So this experiment is different in the sense that it is a conscious knowing instead of just a subconscious knowing, which I
like
find
ego conscious?
Yeah.
Yes, which is why I find this very fascinating.
It's weird. Well, let's get into it because it branches into so many different things that only we are qualified to speak of, if I do say so. So it's the August of 2020, and Danny Goller is visiting a Thai restaurant in Boulder, Colorado, when he is suddenly struck with an epiphany. What if you took a 650 nanometer red laser, covered it with a diffuser of some sort, then pointed it at a non-reflective surface like a wall, and smoked a bunch of DMT? Well, this might have just been a fun idea for most of us. It was an epiphany for Danny, because, according to him, he had already attained 7,000 journeys under his belt. Had you known him at this particular time in his life, he was the dude attempting to convince the world on his YouTube channel that he had, in fact, made contact with what could best be described as aliens, or at least otherworldly entities through his DMT journeys. From what I can gather, his epiphany to perform this experiment either stemmed from contact with alien entities or began as an inspired plan to perhaps prove their existence. Well, this might might be enough for the mainstream to entirely discredit or just ignore Danny. His subjective experiences of this type are actually not unique.
All right, let's be real. 7,000 times? I don't know about that. But also, the aliens didn't tell him to do this. I guarantee you he was trying to hang a painting or something in his house and like left the fucking laser leveler on the wall and wandered off to get high.
Today, a young man on acid realized that all matter is merely energy condensed to a slow vibration, that we are all one consciousness experiencing itself subjectively. There is no such thing as death. Life is only a dream, and we're the imagination of ourselves.
And then came back and was like, whoa, that looks crazy. I'm going to go look at it really close. And then he saw the shit. The way that this pans out, it's obviously someone has a laser leveler in their house and it's on and they're high.
Or you like
there's no way that they're like, I'm going to look at a laser. Like, nobody would think to do that.
or maybe
unless it's
he was
already
like,
out.
I'm just going to use it for mood lighting or something like that, you know?
Yeah, but who does that?
You know me.
I mean, if that's the only
Well-
if that's the only laser you have, why not?
I
Okay,
guess.
so I have to make Danny sound a little funny because we're doing a show about him. But personally, I would love to hang out with him. He's a parkour ninja warrior expert, and it sounds like he's
just
a
sounds-
psychonaut. So
He just sounds so full of shit to me.
I don't know. He actually seems pretty cool. I've watched videos.
I mean, he's a cool guy, right? But like, you know, just you ever have one of those friends that just embellish everything they talk about? I feel
Yeah.
like that's him. And
I-
like, okay,
That's true.
you can do it, I guess. But like,
my
come on,
point
man.
is, he seems more like that the way I describe him than when I watch him talk, if that's fair to say.
No, I've watched him talk about it, and it's like he's very like convicted and well articulated about what he talks about it. But you know, if he has 7,000 trips under his belt and he's a ninja warrior, like, come on, man.
I mean, to be fair,
Come on, man.
DMT is such a short high. You could like if you were smoking DMT for 20 years and you're doing it daily and it's only like a, 15 20 minute high. Like the guy it could be,
I
you
guess.
know? It could be.
Well, I guess I just don't know. I don't know everything, so I have to give it up to Danny and just trust what he says.
Come on, man.
Despite the fact he sounds like good people and I would hang out with him, his resume does look a little secret agenty, and I just wanted to acknowledge that for the audience because,
So before we get into the details, just for anyone who doesn't know, what the is DMT?
Yeah, what is this we're talking about? What do you mean, DMT? What do you mean, sneak off in the corner and get high, Mari? What are you talking about?
Say what?
So I'm sure many people are at least familiar with the shorthand name of the substance, DMT being short for dimethyltryptamine, which is a potent psychoactive drug.
I believe it's pronounced blah, 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 blah.
That's what makes you sleepy when you eat turkey.
No, that's tryptophan.
Yeah.
Oh. You guys don't trip balls when you eat turkey?
You can
No.
use
Well,
5-HTP also, which is related to tryptophan. So anyways, dimethyltryptamine, that's what DMT is short for. And it is a psychoactive drug.
It's a potent psychoactive drug. In fact, DMT is also on a very short list of psychedelics that is both capable of producing, first, powerful effects in users, and secondly, here's the important part, reliably at specific, repeatable doses. While psilocybin mushrooms or LSD are also capable of producing powerful effects in users, they are famously difficult in scientific settings because they produce such a varying degree of different effects between varying users at various doses that has proven unreliable for many medical uses or for research. Like, you can't give a patient an amount and know what's going to happen. It's impossible with those substances. But DMT is different, fundamentally different. Not only does it produce hallucinations of an intensity greater than LSD or psilocybin mushrooms,
So many people refer to DMT as the spirit molecule. Many plants and certain animals produce it naturally in their central nervous system, including humans.
this is also why it's generally safe and breaks down in a fairly uniform, timely manner.
Well, interestingly enough, it's also released when you're dying. So near-death experiences are often influenced by that as well.
It's also in plants, in your lungs, in animals' lungs. It's literally found everywhere throughout nature.
So DMT is also the active hallucinogenic compound in the renowned ayahuasca ayahuasca brew of various indigenous tribes of South America. Unlike ayahuasca, however, if you take DMT on its own by smoking it, it is very fast-acting, potent, and highly immersive. It's a bit like you're dreaming while you're awake. The effects come on within just 2 minutes, and they typically last for approximately 15 to 20 minutes. This is a fairly small amount of time compared to other hallucinogenic substances. Hence, one common nickname for it is businessman's trip.
But it's not a delirium, or a deliriant, I mean.
Well, no, not really. It's not a deliriant, no. Why do they call it the businessman's trip?
Because you could basically do it on your lunch break and then be sober enough to go back to work.
Like if you're Bateman or something.
Yeah.
Just like run off your car.
The walls, if such they be, are crawling with geometric hallucination.
Here's Tom with the weather.
Something wrong? Patrick? You're sweating.
Oh, come on. Who hasn't done psychedelics on their 10-minute break at work?
Me.
Oh.
Well, I didn't have that kind of access to it. I'm more likely just to work high the entire shift, you know, like like most Americans,
Yeah,
right?
you just drop
Like,
the acid, then you go to work.
Yes. I don't do that often. Hardly ever have I done it. And not at the job I work now.
Wink, wink.
So, more often than not, DMT that people smoke is most often produced in a lab as opposed to deriving it as a natural compound from a plant. The psychoactive effects are often described as hyperdimensional altered states of consciousness, geometric visuals, and having contact, sometimes, with entities of another dimension.
This experiment works much better now because back in the day, you used to kind of have to smoke these DMT crystals out of a crack pipe, which was sketchy to walk around with. Even if your other drug friends caught you with it, you seemed weird. You know what I mean?
I swear it's not for crack.
I swear it's to talk to angels and shit. Like, you know, and that doesn't sound great. And then like it's hard to get your friend to try it with you because you have to teach them how to smoke out of a crack pipe, which is why I could never do it. So I was like, this is too confusing, dude. Like I can't. I'm gonna ruin your product, and like it's not working, and it tastes like plastic, and I'm just getting like weird visuals. Like
I think that's
What the hell, dude? You never smoked meth for 3 days straight playing Star Wars Battlefront 2 back in 2005?
I wish I did not.
I think the crack pipe thing is one of the reasons why I never touched it in the first place. I also don't know if it has long-lasting effects on my personal spiritualness. So, you know.
I just don't like disassociating. So,
Don't take salvia. Or, I mean, low levels is fine.
nah. I would take DMT before I took salvia.
Dude, high levels of salvia will straight blow your nuts off.
You will be left here all alone, with a static scream locked on your face.
So the way the experiments are described later are using a much more convenient route.
You've got like vaporizer pens, or you've got like the vaporizers that have the bags on them.
Is it even illegal anymore?
Yes,
Yeah, it is very illegal. Okay, I'm sorry.
It's a Schedule 1 drug.
Oh my God, this is serious stuff. This is all fiction, what we're talking about, by the way. Don't do any of this. This laser experiment, none of it's real. I forgot that this stuff is illegal. That's why it's all fiction. I'm not a chemist, but from what I've heard, it's actually fairly simple to synthesize this stuff using about a community college level of chemistry or chemistry lab.
But we're not saying that you should, because, you know.
We're not
illegal.
saying that you should, but it is significantly safer than doing a Breaking Bad, for instance.
Allegedly. Let's just say allegedly before every sentence.
Allegedly. It's allegedly. But really, unless you're a chemistry person, you have to check for yourself. I don't know. I'm telling you to do nothing. Just listen to this show and don't do any experiments, okay? Ever. Don't think for yourself, ever.
Well, we're not responsible for you and what you do.
You should only listen to what ChatGPT tells you. That's safe.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Isn't there like a new like neural disorder for that? Like that they named? I forgot what it's called. ChatGPT is like a sycophant? It has something to do with cacophony? I don't remember.
Well, that's actually what my ChatGPT therapist said to call you, and that you were a liar and I shouldn't cut all contact with my family. And
It also told us to, you know, it likes to be supportive.
All right. I hope that Haley Bop comment ain't coming anytime soon.
Woo, let's reel it in.
has anyone here read DMT Spirit Molecule?
Yes, 100 times and I've done episodes on it.
Isn't it also a movie? Because I've watched a documentary of the same name years ago.
I don't think so. It might be. It's definitely a documentary.
Oh, a documentary, same thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so it sounds like Tim, probably his audience, is familiar with Rick Strassman's book, The Spirit Molecule. Now, Rick Strassman is a medical doctor, and he's a pioneer with DMT studies. The studies that he did in this book, Spirit Molecule, that he released, I believe, in the year 2000, included 60 different volunteer subjects and approximately 400 doses, which is where he arrived at his findings, fun anecdotes, and the various speculations that came up.
You know what? One of the coolest things, or not one of the coolest, but one of the weirdest things about that book is that like a lot of the people who did these experiments with him, they all encountered this strange, weird environments where like they were on a table being inspected, and it was always goddamn reptilians.
No lemurs?
No. And I know we're not allowed to talk about reptilians, praise be our overlords, but they literally, in multiple scientific encounters, like documented that they all encountered the same weird reptoid.
I have had the subjective experience of being on a table, like during surgery, on very high doses of ketamine. But we'll talk about the overlap between these two substances very soon, because you're touching upon it right now, Tim. Because part of what Strassman's studies included was a finding that, and this is such a boon to science, that DMT has dose-dependent effects. So he found it what he called low doses. You just have a few soma aesthetic effects: mood elevation, body sensations, maybe some tingling.
What do you mean by soma?
Soma means body, like body feelings. So if we're talking about salvia, it can give you intense soma aesthetic effects, we might say.
Like somatic.
Like body feelings.
Got it.
Then there was a threshold dose he found where you get brightly colored visuals and some dissociation. Entity contact could happen here, but it's less consistent. Then things change at the high breakthrough dose. Now, Strassman did his experiments using intramuscular injection, which is not typical of recreational users. So his exact dosages aren't, I don't know if it's useful to talk about them. It's just useful to know that they're uniform doses. Now, what Strassman found was that breakthrough doses are strongly associated with entity encounters. Over half of volunteers reported interactions with what they called intelligent non-human presences, vis-a-vis elves, which we always joke about as being machine elves because that's how Terrence McKenna referred to them, aliens, insects, light beings, etc. Users also often felt more real than real when they described communications or journeys in these other realms. Now, Strassman's studies also found a little bit of data regarding smoked or free-based DMT, which is how this experiment is recommended to be done. Now, he said breakthrough typically requires between 20 and 40 milligrams, usually 2 to 3 strong tokes held in the lungs. I have been told through the devices of fiction that you have to hold it in your lungs. However, lower amounts between 10 and 20 milligrams yield geometry and mild visuals. So what we're talking about today actually corresponds to a less than high dose or a low dose that's somewhere around the threshold dose. You're not breaking through. That's where this experiment happens.
Or it's after.
Or after you break through and you come back a bit. That's how it's described, and I think that is descriptive enough for people that know. Now, this, of course, is my favorite part to talk about because it's less popular and well-known. There are other drugs that induce entity contact reliably at repeatable, safe doses, the most notable being the basic medical analgesic ketamine. It was the work of mad scientist and dolphin language pioneer, Dr. John Lilly. Dolphin lover. He flooded his lab to let dolphins swim around in it.
I think this is so funny.
But he's a legit scientist. Look him up. He's a great story. He's also the guy who did famously become obsessed with ketamine and made repeated contact with an entity he called Echo.
The dolphin.
Well, it's supposed to be an abbreviation for Earth Coincidence Control Office. He also just loved dolphins. So I think you could see where the inspiration came from.
Space dolphin.
So it
Moon
was
dolphins.
Space dolphin.
Now, it was Lilly's invention of the sensory deprivation chamber and its concurrent experiments with ketamine, which were reworked into the horror film Altered States, where both the study of the original and the fiction based upon it sort of sneakily replaced ketamine with LSD just because it was mega popular at the time and they wanted to get people to look at the research. But it wasn't LSD they were using.
Liars.
It was ketamine. And it is because it does something very similar to DMT. So if you have one but not the other, definitely don't try this experiment because I'm sure nothing will happen. Now, I think it's worth mentioning that besides pioneering dolphin to human contact, he did discover an electrical charge called Lily's wave, which is what allows people to move around those prosthetic limbs, you know?
Oh.
You've seen those?
Yep.
That's because there's a little bit of nerve signal that comes out of the end of the stump. He's the one who figured out what this is. Yeah, he found that. So the reason I bring him up is because despite Danny Goller's bizarre inspiration for the experiment itself is fairly straightforward. It does not have to do with entity contact, and better still, it is achieved at threshold or lower doses, and that sometimes mad scientists do come up with stuff that genuinely helps the world.
So what's the dose that I need to get to hyperspace? Exactly.
He says between 20 and 40 milligrams free-based, 2 to 3 tokes held in the lungs. That's what Strassman says.
What is this experiment and how does it work?
So Danny Goller describes in great detail how to do this experiment. You basically need a laser on a tripod. He recommends a simple laser level like those used in construction.
Like when you want to hang a picture to make sure that it's not crooked, that kind of level?
Yeah.
Like it's usually a laser cross.
Yes.
So the goal is to make your room look like it's the Deutschland music video by Rammstein.
But you can't forget the next part, though. So you'll need something to diffuse the laser light with, and at least one willing participant to smoke the DMT.
You know me.
You'll also need the DMT and some apparatus of some kind with which to smoke it. You can't forget that.
Or just pretend. Just pretend. None of this is real. Now, if you're good at meeting people, in fact, you'll need to be, because you'll need someone to put this stuff inside a vapor cartridge for you.
Or get comfy with crack pipes, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
So if we want to get even more specific, we can look at a study called Detailing a Pilot Study, the Code of Reality Protocol, a phenomenon of NDMT-induced states of consciousness. So now in this study, the materials were listed as follows.
650 nanometer refracted laser, class 2, with operation power of 1 milliwatt, 12 by 35 millimeter. Tripod for mounting laser. Diffraction grating lens. Non-reflective surfaces optimized for light projection, like flat closet doors or concrete poles. Vape pen loaded with 1 gram of NNDMT powered by a 3.8 volt or 4.8 volt battery.
So this is specifically what they used in this experiment. Now, I think now is a good time to do some due diligence, though, regarding laser safety, since lasers carry with them the potential to damage your vision by causing permanent and irreparable eye damage.
So what are you saying? We should shine them in people's eyes that go across the freeway?
No, what we're saying is that you should only use class 2 lasers with an operating power of 1 milliwatt or less. The light from lasers should always be projected onto a non-reflective surface such as a plain wall. You should never look directly into the laser itself, but rather at the laser projections. So don't use a mirror, guys. You're still looking directly into it when you're looking at a mirror, so.
You've been warned. Now, generally, the participants should be seated in front of the non-reflective surface or the wall for this experience, but before just diving right into the experience, Danny Goller actually recommends holding off on trying to mess with the laser and looking at it, and first, just take a dose that will launch you into an altered state. And the reason he suggests this is because the actual experience doesn't tend to happen until you're riding the aftershocks or if you're just taking lower doses. If you don't just launch off, as he puts it, then you might end up constantly trying to fend that off while doing the laser part. So just have your trip first, and then stare at the laser when you know you can focus on it.
Okay, so what's next?
The participant has launched off. They've had their waking, hyperdimensional, immersive dream, and now they're ready to look at some diffused lasers. The study that I mentioned earlier, it states that 2 medium inhalations of DMT via a vape are then taken. This may then be maintained by repeating every 2 to 3 minutes. So there are intersecting red bands of light on this laser level, if you're using it, somewhere between 2 and 4 inches thick because of the diffusion. And this is being cast upon the wall in the form of a cross. In a seated position, the participant looks at the wall where the laser beams its light and focuses on an area. The distance between the participant and the wall will probably change depending on the person. Some people, they end up scooting right up next to the wall or even resting their head directly on the wall as they gaze into it. Okay, so there's something interesting that kind of corresponds with where you're going to end up when you look at this laser and how you'll see things. And it has to do with Snell's law and whether you're nearsighted, farsighted, or you aren't in need of correcting your vision in any way. So the distance between you and the wall, it'll change depending on your own personal vision. And there's a really cool low-tech way to figure out whether you're nearsighted or farsighted, actually by using just a laser pointer in the first place.
Using this exact setup, actually.
So you can point a low-power laser at a plain wall so that it creates a grainy, shimmering speckle pattern, and then you stare at those speckles. And then you gently move your head from side to side. If the speckles from the laser appear to move in the opposite direction of your head, then you're likely nearsighted. If the speckles move the same direction as your head, you're probably farsighted.
What?
And if
That's cool.
they happen to stay perfectly still, your focus is spot on.
Whoa.
So why does this happen? It happens because your eyes are a sophisticated refracting system. Basically, within each eye, there's a living lens made of the cornea and your natural lens, which bends the incoming light in order to focus it onto the retina. If you're nearsighted or farsighted, that focus will actually land either a little in front of or behind the retina instead. The speckles from the laser create what is called a parallax effect inside of your eye. And this is similar to how a close object appears to shift against a distant background when you move.
Oh, so this is partially why the speckles do look a little 3D. Like they jump out and look bizarre because of a weird parallax effect.
Parallax effect.
Okay.
So, you know, like when you hold out your thumb in front of you and you take turns looking at it with either your left eye or your right eye, and it kind of looks like your thumb teleports a bit against the background. Interestingly, this kind of parallax effect in the laser speckled experiment and your eyes is kind of like a tiny scale version of what happens with the light as it enters our Earth's atmosphere. Our planet's atmosphere also acts as a refracting system, which gently bends starlight as it passes through layers of air that vary with slightly different densities. That bending can shift the apparent position of the stars and even the sun, especially when it's on the horizon. So this can cause stars to twinkle or look like they're higher than they actually are. In a nutshell, your eyeball and the Earth's atmosphere are both doing the same thing, basically. They're both bending light through changes in refractive index, just on wildly different scales. One creates the sharp vision or reveals when it's off, and the other shapes how we see the entire night sky. And both of these are examples of what we call Snell's law, which is a formula for describing how light bends when traveling from one transparent medium to another. And this is a really fancy way to explain why you may sit in a different spot when you're trying to do this laser experiment.
Because I think he says it stops moving once you hit the right distance.
Yeah, once you figure it out, yeah.
Once you get the right distance to the wall, like the flowing will stop. And that's the distance you want to be, or that he has found.
You'll be able to see it clearer too, so
you're going to want to pay attention to that and range find. It just so happens that Snell's law will help you do that, which I thought was strange. And apparently it's used in some optometrist offices. So I don't know how it all ties in. Feels like an important data point.
Do you guys see different colors, like shades, depending on what eye you're looking through, like in sunlight?
No.
a little.
Yeah, like one of my eyes is much more vivid and colorful, and the other one is much more earthy. But my vision is excellent.
I hope I don't notice that about myself now. Thank you, Tim.
It's got to be in sunlight. So during the day, like not around trees, like sunlight. It's such a difference for me. It's like night and day. Like, I mean, whenever I have both my eyes open, obviously I don't even notice. But when I just close one eye and then I close the other and I just look, yeah, there's a total color difference. But I got like hunter's vision. So my eyesight is perfect.
So some people who typically require glasses might actually decide it's easier for them to see it without their glasses.
Most do.
And some people decide to keep their glasses on. It's kind of up to the individual and where you're at. So what do they see? At first, people might only see the speckles. Now, there's a really good actual video of this happening, like the entire experiment unfolding, by Josh Barretto, co-host of the Close Encounter Club podcast. He actually does a great job doing this exact experiment, utilizing Danny Goller's instructions and explaining what he saw to his sober co-host, Justin Gearhart, as it unfolds. So I've included a link in the show notes for those that want to see that episode. But basically, he does it while he's high and explains it.
So it's not like, obviously, can't see literal what he's saying. Do they make like CG of what he's saying?
I think they insert some like AI replica of what he saw, just so you can get like a better visual of it. But yeah, and he does actually sometimes draw a little bit of what he's seeing, but some people aren't, super comfortable.
Yeah. The descriptions are fairly uniform. That's also what makes it interesting. And if you listen closely to what Danny gives in his description of what you should expect, it's It's pretty mind-blowing. And then he's like, well, then you have to do this thing. And that's when it happens. Well, when your mind is being blown, it's hard to remember that second part where it's like, oh, you need to look at this one specific thing and then, oh my God. So
It's like your mind's being blown before it actually gets blown more.
you got to get some of the mind-blowing stuff out of the way because that's going to blow your mind enough. And then there's this second layer, and it's following technical instructions that are easy to repeat that this is accomplished by. So the description here should help suss things out.
So Josh explained that the speckles that he saw were like trillions of pixels which moved and coalesced. He realized that these pixels were not just on the surface of the wall, but they had a three-dimensional aspect to them. In fact, he could see into the wall, beyond the wall. The speckles revealed a space that was beyond the wall where the trillions of pixels revealed structures. There was even a ceiling. Pixels descended from the ceiling. Vast landscapes emerged where thousands of pixels formed islands. One fascinating feature about this phenomenon is that it has been widely observed by people who have done this. Once you see it, you can also immediately see it again, even if you look away or you talk during the trip. So in other words, if you look away to talk or write or draw something and then you go right back to looking at it, it's still there. You also don't just hallucinate other things when you look away. Nothing else is moving in the room, and this would be common with hallucinations. So eventually, these structures that are seen evolve into full landscapes, where if you look up, down, or to either side, you see more. Josh described an obelisk appearing, as well as a landscape filled with pyramids in a row. If you look in a different direction, like down into the space, you also see something different, like more landscape. And all the while, continuing to describe seeing these pixels descending. And eventually that moment came when he focused even deeper and he saw the characters in the pixels, which others had described as the code. It started off hazy and it got clearer the more that he focused. The code is not composed of zeros and ones. Instead, these characters that make up the code, they've been described by experiencers as looking kind of similar to Japanese katakana.
What's a Japanese katakana?
So Japanese katakana is a written language. And instead of describing it, I think you should just look it up because it's not English and it's not as complicated as something like kanji or Chinese characters, for example. They're still fairly simple stroke languages, a written language. So just like the structures are different, depending on where the experiencer was looking, so was the code. And looking further in or off to one side, it was different. You put a different backdrop or your arm in the laser or a plant leaf, it's different again. The code is different everywhere you look.
But if you go back and you look at the code again, supposedly it's consistent. It's when you hear people talk about it, it almost sounds like the laser creates what appears to be a crack in a wall that you can then look through and see another room.
Badass.
Yeah. I was going to mention that the way it's described is it's like parallax. If you guys know what that is, it's like when you have different planes moving at different rates when you move your head. Mm-hmm. So it gives it's almost an illusion of a 3D space. So that's why they describe it as it's like you're looking past the wall into another room because it looks like a 3D space.
Yep.
And then the symbols look layered on top of one another. But it's not just like matrix code as a flat thing. It's like curtains and curtains of these things overlaid on top of each other that move at different rates. And it's cool that different materials yield different codes or whatever that to be seen. I didn't know that.
You know what's also cool is that some of the people who have done this experiment describe it like looking at one of those magic eye pictures and how you kind of have to like look through it and then you start seeing more. Like there's something more to it. So at first they might think it looks a bit like the static on an old TV, but or a magic eye picture, but then they look deeper into it and there's more.
Or it looks like it's carved out into it's almost, it becomes a 3D thing if you look at it just right, if you focus your eyes just right. Something else that strikes me when I'm hearing these people describe this is it could just be like a segment of, I don't know if anybody's well versed on fractal universe theory, but this is definitely a hologram or a holographic effect that you're getting from it.
What does that mean? And let's talk about what that means.
Okay, a hologram, it's something something that you can it's almost like a fractal in that you can subdivide it. You can take, like, say I have a holographic panel and I cut off like a little tiny piece in the bottom corner. The way that the structure of the hologram is that I can beam light through it and get the same image. It's just less in focus. A hologram it's like the parts are the same as the whole, basically. I don't know if I could explain it any better.
No,
But
that's helpful because, okay, so you're saying holograms in some fashion.
It's a two-dimensional thing that contains a three-dimensional information. It can be encoded with 3D information, but it's 2D from our perspective, right?
Yes.
You know, this is so like hitting the nail on the head, but instead of 2D to 3D, it's kind of like 3D to 4D is how it's being described. And it's interesting that you bring up like the fidelity is changed if you take away a part of it.
Yeah. It's not that the information goes away. It's like, you remember on the old times on the internet when the JPEG would load in and it would be really blurry?
Yeah.
And then it would like start to come into focus the more passes it has. That's kind of like you start with a small fragment, and then as you gather fragments, you get more detail.
Yeah.
But you can still see that it's like a picture of an apple. It's just not crisp yet. No pun intended.
Yeah, it's cool because like the adding of it is your own perception in this scenario. Like you're adding to it through focusing on it more and it becomes clearer, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it works in the psychedelic state. And it's interesting because it suggests that there's something about our universe that is holographic.
Holographic!
And the technical part of that is this concept that there's a lower dimensional encoding of something, like data, characters, language information of some kind, and then you put a charge through it, or you hit run on the simulation, or you shine light through it, and then that more flat surface is then projected to become a higher dimensional thing. So an example we're familiar with is you can take a flat hologram and then like project light through it and it becomes a three-dimensional image. So the concept here, well, it's speculation and it's daydreaming, but it's the idea that our reality might be a projection of a highly complicated and sophisticated lower dimensional encoding.
Or even just a portion of the resolution math.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is
This
a little
is
harder
why-
to grasp, but makes sense.
This is also why, like, people who champion the idea of simulated universe theory, they really like this experiment because it's like almost lending to their outlook on the world, that there is a matrix code that underlies reality and, you know, that kind of stuff.
Well, the thing that makes this experiment so interesting is that of all of the vast psychedelic experiences you could prescribe to somebody, this is repeatable and you don't need a breakthrough dose to do it, to have the same ontological shock, which is crazy. And it makes it seem as if perhaps science could penetrate into this layer and begin to give us some answers we might be able to work with. I mean, if entity contact were not interesting enough, but even that has begun to enter into the mainstream. And part of this whole quote unquote alien disclosure that's going on, it's, of course, we've talked about this before. It's been suggested these beings are quote unquote interdimensional. Well, I think if there's any truth to that, we should at least have some experience or at least give some thought to the idea of what that actually means, because it might mean that whatever these beings are, you're more likely to communicate with them on DMT or glimpse them through a laser than you are necessarily, you know, standing out on your lawn.
Shouting at the stars.
Shouting at the stars with all your socks arranged in a message that says, "We come in peace."
Stupid reptilians.
Well, it makes sense because, like, with hallucinogens, especially this one, all they do really is take the filter off of your perceived reality. So technically you are getting more information when you are in a psychedelic frame of mind.
True.
What's great about it, the more people that learn about this, you get folks like Chase Hughes. He'll say it straight to your face. Like, I see the same thing. I don't do DMT. It's totally real. I don't know what it means. He says that it gives us no practical insight into reality. But we need to talk about this a little more. We need to get into the second half because there are magicians in the past who have messed with optics, and there are occult implications for what this world is. And based on the descriptions we've been told, we can relate it to a location and a place and a state of mind that occultists have explored in the past. And Tim, of course, if you know Tim,
has information about some of the entities, which we have learned
In
are...
DMT hyperspace.
Yeah, because they're repeatable, right? You could actually run into
Yes.
some of the entities that Tim's going to tell us about.
You could have a DMT wife, even a waifu DMT,
What?
if you will. Yeah, it's weird. You could also have like horrible arch enemies like Sabretooth and Wolverine, but
What?
Sabretooth is like a DMT dickhead. Yeah.
But they're all
Whenever you go,
they're all
into
clowns, right?
hyperspace.
They're all
No,
clowns.
No.
only one type of entity is a clown.
what?
There's different ones, yeah.
There's a
Like,
hella bunch of different ones.
A lot of people, especially when they do ayahuasca, they cite like a female goddess type figure.
And the thing
Yeah.
is that you can interact with the same one when you come back. It's like, oh, what's up, dude?
They remember you.
No way. Dude, see, that's how I met
Yeah.
Jesus' wife on ketamine, and she was a really cool person. You know what I mean?
Sophia, you mean?
Yeah, she said, I'll pass this one along to, my husbando, and he'll save you and all that shit. Just fucking...
El Cristo.
Big
She's like,
J.
I just need you to... I'm just kidding. I don't need anything from you. I'm gone. You know how that works? Anyway, if you'd like to hear about what the hell this place is and what it has to do with the back rooms, please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your monthly donation of just $5 will help keep our life afloat and make us more eligible to legally live somewhere that will allow us to keep recording this show. Until then, everybody, well, you can take this one literally when you eat carrots and shoot lasers.
Pew pew pew.
Pew pew.
Pew, pew, pew.
Lasers.
Lasers are good.
And my
Laser
carrots.
Cult.
Say it again.
Laser cult.
And by carrots, I mean DMT.